Good afternoon, everyone. Please have a seat. Good afternoon. To our President, Joe Biden, members of Congress, the members of the Till family, and my fellow Americans, today we gather to remember our history. We gather to remember an act of astonishing violence and hate, and to honor the courage of those who called upon our nation to look with open eyes at that horror and to act. The story
by March. If you don't do it by February 15th, you're not going to get that check by March. Now, if you want to get the check sooner than that, here's a couple things that you can do. First of all, the mayor wants to make sure that everyone is eligible and for this rebate to apply. He intends everybody to apply for the deadline by February. He said, I don't want anyone to say they didn't have the chance to get the refund. Do it now and qualify. The city stated that this rebate is a good check, and mostly thanks to the city's administration increasing sales tax of 8.25%. So as of January, though, the finance director has estimated that between 1 million and 2 million of the 2021 homeowners and property taxes has been refunded thanks to the rebate. It's with an additional 600 grand still available. To apply for this rebate, residents must have owned their property tax for the 2021 entire year, and also pay the entire tax bill in 2022. They must then fill out a property tax refund application and mail it along with one proof of a property tax bill. The mayor has warned that this will likely be the one time the deadline is pushed back. And also, Alabama lawmakers are eyeing possible tax rebates as the reason they see a state budget surplus of more than $1 billion. The legislators will face a decision on what to do next, including how much to save, how much to spend, and how much to do with the money. But according to the Legislative Services Agency, the state budget has funds that education as a $3 billion surplus. The state general surplus has a smaller surplus of around $400 million. And now the senator who chairs the Senate Education Budget Committee said that lawmakers are working with the governor on a proposal that he expects the plan to include rebate checks, along with tax cuts and just putting money aside into reserves. Now, this money put aside into reserves should help people out with more stimulus. If it doesn't help them out with stimulus, well, it's bad news. But the good news is this. It's that the Republican lawmaker said he expects a proposal for tax cuts. He said it's important that the state put a lot of money into reserves. The AP reported that at least 15 states have approved a one-time check. There's been disagreement among lawmakers on how to use the rare budget surplus. Several Democrats would like the expansion of other areas, and even the Senate Democrat told reporters that if we could do a tax rebate, we could expand Medicaid and help people out. Help people out by giving them stimulus and give people stimulus money they need. We got attendees but the fourth stimulus check, Social Security benefits, SSI, and SSDI. There's a ton of stimulus information that you guys have to know. We got a lot of news on this, a ton of stimulus to talk about. It's here, it's now, it's time. Because the remarks from Kevin McCarthy are here. He said he's not going to touch Medicare or even Social Security. Now, since he's not going to touch the Social Security and Medicare, well, it means that people will be getting stimulus. Yes, that's true, and that's a fact. Also, I want to say one more thing, folks.
If these investments turn out to be profitable as a direct result of these federal grants, the taxpayers of this country have a right to get a return on that investment. That is not complicated, nor is it a radical idea. These exact conditions were imposed on corporations that receive taxpayer assistance in the bipartisan CARES Act, which passed the Senate 96-0. In other words, every member of the U.S. Senate has already voted for the conditions that are in my amendment. Further, the CARES Act was not the first time that Congress passed warrants and equity stakes tied to government assistance. During the 2008 financial crisis, Congress required all companies taking TARP funds to issue warrants and equity stakes to
individuals and $2,000 for married couples. But under this finalized deal, Minnesota people who make up to $75 grand a year can get a one-time refundable tax credit, and people will get a lot of money and help from this department. Other credits that could result in lowering your tax burden or even a large refund include the Earned Income the Tax Credit and the Child Independent Care Credit. The latter was made refundable in 2021, meaning up to $8,000 could get reimbursed on expenses for daycare and such, which show up on tax refunds. However, households that welcome the new family member could also be eligible for $1,400 for the third economic stimulus check. We have a lot of good news about the fourth stimulus payment that I want you to know, so continue watching the video. President Biden is now meeting with Democrats and Republicans to finally reach an agreement on the next package. Americans are urging President Biden to sign a new executive order that would allocate billions of dollars towards a fourth round of payments. So, we have some good news. President Biden's administration is actually going to renew its push with lawmakers to secure crisis funding this week. That's according to a White House official that told CNN that following inaction from the Senate on a $10 billion funding package, it is likely a deal will be reached very soon. The White House official has said as Congress turns back to work, the Biden administration will be focused on working with lawmakers to secure funds to keep aid flowing and continue protecting the American people from the crisis. The Biden administration has been sounding the alarm for weeks that additional funding is needed to continue the federal crisis, even as it seeks return to normal. The Biden administration also requested $22.5 billion in supplemental crisis relief funding in a massive government funding package, but it was removed from the bill. It included funding for the crisis, testing, and treatments. Negotiators were able to reach an agreement on a scaled-back $10 billion package, but Congress left Washington earlier this month without passing a bipartisan bill amid a disagreement over some policies. The inaction before the break marked the second time a deal on a crisis relief package has been scuttled over in just over a month. In March, a $15.6 billion package has been negotiated on by the House of Representatives and Senate leaders, but it collapsed because people couldn't agree on how to pay for it. And one of the major promises made by President Biden's election campaign was the landmark decision to cancel student debt. Over a year into the presidency, and nothing has happened of that sort. It has been proven to be a major stumbling block for the Democrats as they approach the midterm elections in November. After canceling much of the crisis-era spending plans, voters who are not inspired to vote for the Democrats, and a large-scale defeat is extended.
Rural America, inner city America, suburban America, throughout every single school district in America. That's part of the whole legislation we passed in terms of infrastructure. It's starting now, it's going to create millions of jobs as well, for real. But again, we got to get in the 21st century. We got to move. And the budget I propose supports schools, supports students, and supports you. To bridge the gap between under-resourced schools and their wealthier counterparts, we're proposing a $19 billion increase in Title I schools, and mostly historically neglected, underfunded schools in our nation. We gotta let them catch up. That investment would more than double the current funding of Title I schools. And it also propose